Hello, everybody. I don't know how we know if there are people joining, but hello. Nice to see you all on this lovely Tuesday lunchtime. I think we'll just wait for a few minutes before we start off. Well, thank you all for joining. I can see some people coming to the party. Lovely to see you here. Hope you're all having a lovely Tuesday. We're just going to wait a few minutes before we get started on today's webinar. Well, I hope everyone's enjoying at least a little bit of the autumn sunshine. It makes a nice change from rain here anyway. Righty-ho. Oh, I can see more people joining. Fabulous, thank you. Nothing like inviting everyone to a birthday party and no one showing up. So thank you very much all for joining. I'm Alice and we're joined here with Mike from Impression. We'll do proper intros in a minute, but just waiting for a few more people to join and then we'll kick start. Hopefully everyone can hear us or hear me all okay and see us all okay. But yes. Right, as soon as it hits 2 minutes, I think we can get set going because we've got a lot of content to get through today. Brill, all right. So, Mike, we good to go?
Yep, all good from my side.
Perfect, brilliant. So thank you all for joining. We'll kickstart now, but if anyone joins late, I won't reintroduce myself a million times, but hey, you might as well get going. Thank you all so much for joining. We are here to talk about how to bloom in beauty with Bloomreach and Impression. So I guess, so it makes a little bit of sense. We can go into who we are. So lovely to meet you all. My name is Alice Bryant-Chidgey. I'm a Senior Customer Success Manager here at Bloomreach. I work with a plethora of our customers here at Bloomreach, primarily in the beauty and fashion retail sector. So I've hopefully got lots of transferable information and knowledge that I can bring to this session today. And also if any of you were interested in knowing more about Bloomreach, that I can tell you in the future as well. We always like to kick off with a little bit of information. So I've been with Bloomreach for just over 2 years. I was actually a customer of Bloomreach way back in the day. So I've worked with the platform for about 5.5 years and worked in marketing for many, many years before that. And a fun fact about me, in case anyone's interested, I used to be or was once on the X Factor. Mike, I don't know if you fancy doing a bit of intro to yourself.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike. I'm Head of Behavioural Science at Impression. What that kind of means is basically I deal in all things design and psychology. I've been doing this now for just over 10 years, which seems like a very long time. Outside that, I'm studying for a PhD in neuroscience. So basically trying to understand human level, like brain level motivation, how designs, how websites affect the brain. And that's kind of led me down my current career path. And today we'll be sharing some of those insights into how we can make interfaces, communications, messages, websites more effective. So yeah, we'll be jumping into that in a little bit of time.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Brilliant. So let's get stuck in. So today we've got a load of information and lots of content to take you through, mainly from Bloomreach platform perspective. So that's where I join the party, and then also from Mike from the Impression side. He's got loads of really great slides to take you through more about how you can really bring your content and your I guess your campaigns to life, and how really to capture your customers' attention in what you're doing. So yeah, not too many spoiler alerts. What I thought I would do just to kind of kick off today's session is to kind of show you how we see the beauty industry today, and hopefully this isn't too new information. I hope not. This is a beauty, cosmetics and the like focused webinar. So I guess from our point, we have some notable insights from customers that we see, but also the industry as a whole. The beauty industry, as always, goes through big peaks and troughs, big changes, especially when the economy gets a little bit fun. Coming from my previous role working at a beauty company, I know this quite well. But you know, we see a massive influx with our customers working with social platforms, with the massive increase in influencers, and then now kind of more of a focus on micro-influencers. We're seeing how CRM strategies are changing more and more to make sure that we are capturing customers' attention based on trending data, but also seeing if there's a way that we can use our customers' databases to really almost hone their own micro-influencers within their own database infrastructure, kind of like referral schemes and things like that. How can we build influencers within your existing databases? It kind of goes without saying, we always, with all of our industries that we work with, there is a massive expectation that personalization is at the forefront of everything that brands do. And that's something that we hear all the time. And I think if we all had £1 for every time that we heard that personalization is key, we might all be very well off. But it is there's a reason that is said a lot. It's not a lie. Personalization, especially within the beauty industry, cosmetics and the like, are very personal by but as products they are. So they need to be personal in the way that we communicate to our customers to really capture attention, especially when it's really noisy out in the industry itself. Not only do we have lots of insights here from Bloomreach, from the customers that we work with, we're also very close to the pain points, whether that's trying to drive brand or product loyalty in a vertical that's very, very saturated. So just because you sell your product on your brand website doesn't mean to say it's not being sold on lots of other wholesalers and other pure play websites as well. So how do you break through the noise? How do you drive loyalty and customer trust, I guess, within your product, but also your brand to keep them coming back for more? That's something we hear all the time and something we try and tackle, and we've got a couple of examples coming up later that hopefully will help answer these challenges too, and then also how we kind of move into upcoming trends. How are we getting ahead of what our customers want with the birth of kind of TikTok and other more social platforms having that shorter time span content? How do we keep on top of that in more traditional channels such as email and SMS and push notifications too? So I could keep going on for that forever, but I'll keep going in the interest of time. Just so you all know, here at Bloomreach, we try and identify a customer lifecycle throughout their time with you as a brand. We have really key purchase points that hopefully none of these are brand new to you. Things like lapsing, reactivation, birthdays, refer a friend. They're quite generic throughout a customer's lifecycle with you as a brand and also across any industry really that you purchase with. But what we try and do here at Bloomreach is make sure that we cover every single one of these touch points, one which might be around repeat purchase or replenishment that are slightly more important for a beauty industry than maybe fashion, and make sure that we're ticking off each of these purchase points with use cases to make sure that we're making the most out of a customer's journey with you and your brand. Just as a bit of a flavour, hopefully again, none of these are new. These are I guess actually before we move into peak period, might be a good tick box for everybody on the call. These are really key purchase moments that we see with beauty clients that we work with. And we almost use this list as a bit of a tick box. So do you have a use case or a campaign that covers each of these purchase points? If you do, brilliant, massive well done, gold tick. If you don't, then maybe use this list as a bit of a thinking spot, bit of inspiration, especially ahead of Mike's content. Are there ways that you could tweak your campaigns or tweak your customer use cases or customer journeys to make sure you're hitting each of these purchase moments within your customer's life cycle? Mike's going to take you through some really interesting approaches or things to consider when you build your content, and also your kind of tactical standing for your customer journeys going forward. Like I said, a peak period is number one in my head as far as what's important coming up in the next few weeks, but it could also be longer lasting than that. So Mike, I'm going to hand over to you to take everyone through your content.
Cool, thank you very much. So I suppose just to cover this off, I suppose my background is behavioural science, and my interest therefore lies heavily in that. Now, CRM is really interesting in general to me because it allows you the opportunity to serve information at the right time, at the right place. It's highly relevant, which goes back to this whole personalisation piece, and we'll hear that term referenced probably quite a lot over the next few minutes. One of the reasons, or one of the grounding principles that I tend to use is that marketing is effectively psychology. Basically, you've got a person, they're out there in an environment and you're trying to encourage them to take an action. In the beauty industry, obviously that revolves around buying products, but also the usage of those products and the appraisal of them afterwards. And actually building journeys that keep people engaged is all about psychology in the beauty industry, because we use beauty products to communicate a value to ourselves, to change our identities and to build identities, but we also use them to communicate with others. And what that means is that there's a whole plethora of things that you can do to drive engagement. So when we think about human behavior, how we like change and alter that, well, there's kind of like 6 human factors that all marketing communications, whether they're email, SMS, whether they're website, they all have to be able to do these basic principles. So they have to be able to hold your attention. If something's boring, it isn't engaging, or it isn't relevant because it's not targeted at you specifically, it's going to struggle to hold your attention. If you don't trust the communication or the brand or the message, you're very, very unlikely to act on it. Nextly, motivation. Now, this is where all that good timely stuff from having the right campaign set up comes into play. Our motivation drives our behaviors. So if you can understand a relevant time and space in which someone's going to be motivated to make a purchase, you can then appear at the right time and the right place. Ease of use. I think everyone on this call has probably abandoned a sale on mobile because the website wasn't up to scratch, because it wasn't easy to use, because they couldn't find the products and the services they were looking for. Understanding. If you're delivering an email communication to someone who's watching TV, then your email needs to cut through very, very effectively for those couple of seconds it's going to be on the screen. So therefore, you need to have highly relevant content. Memory. People remember how you made them feel, and those are the main touch points in which you want to sort of build customer longevity. So if you start to think about lifetime value of your customers as they move through their life cycle, how you make them feel at different points will dramatically impact how they perceive you going forward and the length of that cycle. So making sure that you're memorable in the right way, and if there are challenges, making sure that you've got the right CRM systems to deal with that is also really, really important too. A model that we use internally to sort of manage our marketing communications and think about when we're building and designing these out is called Mindspace. Now, I'm going to go through all these in a lot of detail, but effectively it's messenger, the person who sends the message. Incentives, think about that as motivation. Norms, i.e. how people behave in groups. Defaults, so pre-selected options. Salience, which is basically attention. Priming, which is the thing that we've done immediately before we take an action. Effects, which is like our emotions and our mood. Commitments, what we've agreed to do, or how things that we've perceived that we've agreed to do. And ego in this case, you can kind of think of as like the self. And obviously lots of beauty products tie back to our perception of ourselves. That's a really interesting one when we get onto it. In terms of messenger, the person who delivers the message to you, whether that's an expert or a blogger or a website, massively impacts the trust that you're going to put into it. In terms of building like messenger pros effectively, it comes down to things like being similar. So playing back things to people that they are already interested in, i.e. personalization, complementary products or complementary services, but also being complementary in yourself. So if someone's bought a product from you recently and that has an impact on how they're on their visual aesthetic, complementing them on their visual aesthetic in your marketing communications is probably quite a smart tactic, because actually they're buying something because they want to feel a certain way. So telling them that they are feeling that way is probably smart. Being cooperative, so giving instructional videos on how to apply makeup, for example, or how to get the most out of a product or service is going to be really, really helpful in making sure they use the product at the rate you want them to use, because you want to kind of build habit formation where people use your product as like a go-to regularly, and therefore they will move through that product quicker, and therefore you can get the rebuy once they move through that product or extend the range. We can see here a beauty brand using sort of a messenger who's perhaps on an authority basis or has clout within that industry as their blog content. You can do this in your emails. You can find experts. You can bring in influencers to really push and drive that type of stuff. Incentives. Now, when I talk about incentives, I'm not just talking about sticking a discount code on your website or in your emails. Actually, motivation is much more about the intrinsic level. So it's about emotions. The reason we give gifts to people is because we want them to feel a certain way, and it's about social familiarity and inclusion. So actually understanding that is really, really important. And then obviously extrinsic being things like discount codes and stuff, which are highly effective and obviously seasonal with things like Black Friday around the corner. But really, you want to have both levers and you want to be able to pull them both at the same time. A good example of this is on the Look Fantastic website. Now, when we ran this through an attention mapping tool, what we spotted straight away was that the area that's getting most of the visual attention is the 20% off and a lady's smiling face. Now, why is that important? That's important because we look to other people's emotions on their faces to understand how to feel in a contextual environment. So showing happy people on a website around your products tells people that your products are going to make people feel happy. So when you pull the emotional lever of that, and then you've got the discount code with it at the same time, you're now pulling both of those levers that we just spoke about. Another cheeky thing you can do, it's not every example I'm going to bring today is beauty, simply because it does help sometimes to look outside of your own vertical just to see what else you can basically effectively steal, because ultimately there's other good stuff out there, so borrow it if you can. Something we were all taught as children when we were in primary school in the Western world was that ticks next to your work mean you're doing a good job. It means continue, and it means things are going well. Green also means go in traffic lights in 90% of places. So when we put green ticks next to a form, or when someone adds to basket, or someone has signed up for your email message, or someone has done something like that, ticks actually release a type of dopamine. It's basically task reward completion. And by using dopamine, what we can do is we can encourage people to take more actions. So when people sign up to your email, present them with a tick, tell them to immediately go and check it. The chances they will immediately check their email goes up. Same with form completions in general. This is an example from an airline where we've done exactly that. Social norms. So social norms are really interesting. Like we're all programmed to want to copy each other. And the more ambiguous the situation, the more we look to other people. So think about when you first land in an airport for the first time. Like I recently went to Thailand not so long ago, very, very busy airport. I didn't know where I was going. So I was looking around to try to understand how to get to the train station. I found it in the end. Another thing is, on a Friday night, if you and your friend are walking down a street with a load of bars on it and you see a bar that's empty and the bar next to it has loads of people in it, which bar are you going to go into and why? Now, we can use that type of normative psychology to drive interaction. Effectively, we can encourage people to want to move in the same position as everyone else is. Now, things like Trustpilot make good business living on that type of stuff. Now, just because someone signed up for your email, it doesn't mean that things like Trustpilot become less effective. Actually continuously exposing people to trust-related content and to social proof type messaging will inherently encourage to work. Now, it is more effective at the start of the journey simply by the nature of higher levels of ambiguity. However, if you've got a premium, or if you've got a complex product or something that's quite new and you're trying to educate people, you can rely and fall back to social proof as a way of encouraging that. And the other one, another great example is UGC content. Like if you've got Instagram, if you've got these different tools to gather this type of content, getting real content from your actual users, or even using agencies to produce it, which is increasingly common these days, is something that goes on. It's really, really wise to try and test this stuff before you do it, simply because if people perceive your UGC to be fake in a bad way, that can have a negative consequence. So I will tell you now to make sure that you are testing everything before you just put it live. And that's going to be another theme which we'll get onto later today. So defaults. So if you are a subscription product and you are selling a subscription beauty service, things like defaulting people into a subscription or defaulting into the more premium option or the delivery type that you want them to have, or getting it delivered before Black Friday at an extra charge. These are all things that you can encourage people to do by pre-selecting an option or by visually making an option stand out more. We've got an example here from a car rental service where based in Iceland. So what you can see here is lots of additional service options and effectively no one's clicking them very, very easily by telling them that one of them is recommended and by telling one of them that the other is popular. Not only did we manage to increase the amount of people taking the products, but actually we managed to reduce the anxiety of actually going through with a purchase in the first place. By doing this type of stuff, you can do this very easily in your marketing communications by telling people that a certain product is popular. You could tell them that something is running out. You could tell them that you recommend these two products together for a reason to increase basket values. There is lots and lots of ways that you could play this out in your marketing communication strategy. Salience. So salience is basically attention. And what's really interesting about attention is it can be manipulated. So attention, so those two blue circles in the middle are the exact same size. Now, usually in a live audience, this is the point where half people tuck their heads to the side because they don't believe me. And what's interesting is that even though they've been told that it's still true, it doesn't change anything. Now, there are tools out there now, like this attention mapping tool that we use internally, that we can use to scan marketing communications. And what it tells us is, are they too busy, yes or no? Where's the attention going to fall, i.e. what's likely to be remembered, what's likely to have the impact? And how engaging is this piece of content, and is the content clear enough? Now, this piece of content is scoring low on what we call focus. What that means for this homepage is that all the visual elements are too busy and they're fighting each other. Now, if you've got a couple of seconds on a website to land a message to get a sale, this is the type of thing that you would want to look at. Another thing that I would suggest as well is that if you've got a lot of new users landing on your beauty website, you probably want your trust content, as discussed earlier, above the fold so that it works. Another tool you can use is like making products stand out visually using attention to increase sales by, again, going back to that social proof element. The next one's really interesting, and it's about priming. So priming is about the message that we see immediately before we take the action. And what happens is these things build over time. So you'll notice that Christmas advertising and Black Friday advertising is increasingly earlier and earlier in the year. And it almost becomes an arms race to who's going to pull the trigger first. The reason people do that is because of priming. Now, I've chosen a completely non-Christmas example, but it is lunchtime, so hopefully this will become relevant in a moment. So, effectively, this advert was all over billboards in the UK and all over TV. Now, what happens is, if you're not really hungry when you walk past this advert, or you don't immediately have a need, you probably ignore it. But you might take in a little couple of items. You might take in the fact it's red. You might take in the fact it's KFC, depending on how familiar you are with advertising. But that then starts you on a journey where effectively you're now starting to learn something. Now, with advertising, what's really good is that we can blast lots of different email campaigns with our products around these seasonal times of year. Now, at that point, the need for the product starts to increase as we move closer to the deadline for the order. Now, because we've already predisposed to the advert will draw more of our attention. So what KFC have cleverly done here in the Uber app is they've changed the logos throughout the whole journey to match what's in their advertising. Now, how that plays out for you is, if you've got a TV ad campaign or a more mass market approach to your advertising, you want to make sure that your traffic on your landing pages is married to it. You also want to make sure that your abandoned basket emails and everything else that comes off the back of this is also married to it. Priming is all about consistency and repetition, and you can master that in lots of different ways, but it's something I really do suggest you play around with because it is very, very powerful indeed. Next, we've got effect. So now we're going to talk to you about emotions, and this slide always gets a good reaction, and it's really simple. We're pre-programmed and predispositioned to find certain things cute, to like certain types of imagery, and Kevin the Carrot is a perfect example of something that's been turned into a character that people love and like. It is a carrot, let's be honest, right? Now, what you can do, though, is you can get a bit creative with your characters, with your advertising, and you can inject that sense of cuteness. You can inject that sense of empathy into it. And in the beauty industry in particular, I would argue this could be effective in certain areas if used correctly. And the proof of that is that, I guess, that meerkat from the comparethemarket.com, its autobiographies hold more copies than Tony Blair's autobiography. So effectively, a meerkat for an insurance product is more popular. Now, that's quite powerful in your advertising, because find ways to inject emotion into your advertising, into your emotions, make people feel good, compliment them, use cute imagery. All of this stuff can be used to leverage better marketing communications. Commitments. So we've all agreed to do stuff and then gone through with it because we felt like we had to. Believe it or not, websites and digital media in general can help us to do the same. So basically, how can we make people want to do that type of stuff? Well, effectively, showing people their product usage, showing people how far they are through the journey, using things like loyalty points, using things like talking, if it's a long care health sort of related beauty product, you can talk about where they are in the journey and the benefits they're going to receive of it over time. If it's a product that is more short usage, then you could use these tactics more on your website. So, for example, having a banner, for example, that tells people how far they are through the journey. Here's a great example of commitment, like we thought of it earlier. Effectively, you've now added this to your basket. Now, by making it super easy for them to go to the next step of the journey, it's now prompting them to go through. You'll notice that it says added to your basket. I would argue they should perhaps have a tick there, but that's a story for another time. But commitments. Someone takes an action on your website, they add something to basket, they are expecting to receive feedback from a computer system, i.e. emails, notifications, SMS, right? Making people aware that they have already started the journey with you makes people feel compelled to continue that journey with you. Finally, ego. I appreciate I'm going through quite a lot of information at pace here, so if you do want the slides, they will be made available afterwards. What's really interesting about human ego is that we grow attached to things the more we interact with them. This example from Beauty Pie wants you to build your own skincare routine. By doing this, by investing more of this mental effort, by personalizing it to ourselves, we then become more attached to it on an emotional level. There's something called self-generation, which basically means we like our own ideas more than we like other people's, and therefore, by making people think something is their idea, you can encourage them to convert at a higher rate. So if this person invents their own skincare routine with you, and then you then tell them how their skincare routine is going through communications, personalization, products, all that type of stuff, you can then personalize comms back to them and make the comms personal to them in a way that isn't just like personalized because they click something, but actually psychologically personalized to them, which is a whole extra level of being able to get people to interact with something. Finally, I've probably got a few moments left now just to cover some points. Everything I just said is based on experience and running a lot of experiments and collecting a lot of data. However, I beseech you not to take my word for it. I beseech you to go out and test this stuff. The reason being is dead simple. When you've got marketing communications, effectively what happens is that things can be based on people's opinion. If you base your marketing strategy on an opinion, not on data, what will happen one day is that opinion will turn out to be false. And you will have spent a lot of money on advertising, websites, and the rest of it. You can definitely start to de-risk your experiments tomorrow by simply asking your customers what they think, by simply running the experiment. Take the data, take an idea of something you've seen today, whether it's the bestseller badges, which is a really quick, effective one, or put some content from Trustpilot into your emails, or whatever it is. Get out there, take your optimizations that are already running in the background, and run that really simple experiment. And Bloomreach is actually really good for this. I am slightly biased, but at the same time, it does work. So take my word for it, it can be done. And really start to put some of this stuff to practice. Now, obviously, you've got a short amount of time before your next big sales events and stuff like that. But there is time now to start thinking about some of this stuff, even before we get them with more tactical bits, but also the longer term strategy around experimenting with your emails, experimenting with your comms, because your website, emails, paid media, and everything else you can think of basically should be having tests ran on it. And the best way to do that is to centralize it and to start to think about your learning strategy. Ultimately, if you learn tomorrow that a certain influencer or a certain combination of products, in a certain order was gold dust for you, and you will only learn this through testing, you can then roll this out across all of your marketing channels. If you learn that, I don't know, putting a puppy on your advert made your advert more effective, guess what you can do? You can roll it out everywhere. So you can make all of your marketing more efficient and more effective. So key takeaways. If it loads, there we go. So yeah, firstly, behavioral science. You can use it in your marketing to make your marketing better. Secondly, user research. I don't just mean quant. Although quant is great and it's very, very good at describing challenges to you. Go out, get some of your customers, put them in a room and show them some of your marketing. Show them your website, show them your emails. Get some of that voice of customer data, because what you can then do is you can enrich it. You can even build surveys in Bloomreach to capture some of that data if you wanted to. Now, by building all this qualitative data with the quant, you've got the what and the why, and therefore you know what to redesign because it isn't performing, and then how to redesign it. Run experiments to prove and disprove things. Don't just take people's opinions as golden. You can use psychology to influence people's perceptions, and some of that stuff is built into us. Spend an inordinate amount of time on what I describe as first impression. So value proposition. When someone first sees that marketing communication, that homepage, that image, notification, whatever it is, the very first things that they see will disproportionately affect what they do next and their perceptions of everything else that happens. It's called peak end rule. And basically what it means is that we remember the emotionally charged bits, and the first impressions are often part of that. If the communication is going to be sticky, spend lots of time on that first 5-10 seconds. What do people see and what do they think and feel? Because nailing that will increase the dwell time and give you more opportunity to continue to market to them. Finally, Impression is offering a behavioral science page review that could also be extended to marketing communications. Effectively, myself, member of the team, will use our attention mapping AI, various other tools, and we will review some of those pages for you, look at some of those comms and give you some recommendations. And that's absolutely complimentary. So if you need anything, let me know. I'll just get in touch. Thank you very much for listening to me. Hopefully you found some of that at least partially useful. I'm now going to kick you back over to Alice, who's going to take you through the rest of it.
Thanks so much, Mike. Biggest takeaway, I wish I could put puppies on every single email I send. That would be lovely. But it was super, super helpful and interesting. So I hope everyone thought so too. I forgot to say at the beginning, but if anyone does have any questions or queries, please feel free to pop them in the chat or on the Q&A tab on your screen. We're here to answer any of your questions as best we can. So please feel free to. So to bring back what Mike's been talking to you about, so mind space, I won't go through all of it again, but mind space, keeping that in mind and really bringing your communication to the forefront of your customers' attention. How we would recommend you do that is through your use cases, at least from a CRM perspective. So from I guess an initial point of view, we see, and hopefully you see, your top performing use cases within your CDPs, your ESPs, as being your abandoned series, your welcome, your onboarding, your birthday, all of that, the generic, for want of a better word, but all of the normal use cases that you'd see across all verticals are still very, very relevant and very top performing for beauty, for the beauty industry. I think we can all agree what Mike's taken us through has made us think, well, at least made me think, right, all the customers I work with, let me go through the first 5 seconds with that brand. What do I see? What do I interact with? Is there a tweak or a test that I can implement on the welcome campaign that we have currently to really bring that, I guess, a different mindset, I guess a brand new to a brand mindset into each of your customer journeys. I show you this slide because, again, as I said earlier, is a bit of a tick box. So do you have all of these journeys live in your platforms currently? Are these journeys that you are exploring? On each of these I guess, bullet points or journey use case ideas. There's also a section on the different channels you could go after these customers on. So have you expanded your abandoned series onto additional channels? Is it just email? Could you trial an SMS for kind of a more immediate kind of push for that customer? So feel free to screenshot or have a look at these slides once you receive them through email after this session, just to make sure you're ticking all those boxes. To make sure that we're bringing you something new and maybe things that you haven't thought about before, along with Mike's brilliant insights, there are some really innovative use cases that we're seeing our customers at least dabble, trial, and test in. I guess the biggest takeaway from both Impression side and from Bloomreach is that we think that testing's overlooked. It's not when people, I think, are not scared of testing, but it's seen as like an extra, like, oh, we now need to remember to put that test live. But we should always be testing and learning our journeys, our communication strategies, and also just our ideas with our customer base, both in person, if you could possibly do kind of a bit of a session, or through surveys or web layers throughout your platforms too. So a couple of the use cases here that I'll pick out, one, which I'll go into a little bit more into a second, which is called acquisition web layers. The name is maybe a little bit dry because it just kind of is like, yeah, acquisition web layers, we all do that. Sign up, get 10% off, lovely. But they can be so much more exciting, interesting, and help you then with the rest of your journeys. Other use cases on here that I maybe won't go into too much detail on today, but please feel free to reach out and we can definitely help fill in some gaps that you may have in the future. But around refer a friend, loyalty web layers, but also experiments and tests that you can do around your kind of golden nuggets of customers, for want of a better phrase. It is lunchtime after all. We've already touched on fried chicken, so I might as well carry on that theme as well. So there are loads of use cases that maybe are slightly different to the norm that we would recommend you having a look into, maybe doing a bit of testing in. But again, any questions or queries, please feel free to reach out. So going into zero-party data capture, acquisition web layers, surveying web layers, whatever you'd like to call them. These are pop-ups, for want of a better word, or web layers as we call them at Bloomreach, but they can also be embedded into your customer journeys too. They live on your website, so they only require a cookie to be able to be shown to your customers. And I guess as a very, very basic level, they can be used as a way to acquire new email signups, consent, and I guess things like birthdays or phone numbers and things like that. An area of this tool or this feature that we think is forgotten about and maybe kind of just sort of left by the wayside is asking your customers what brought them to your brand. This particular example is green. Don't worry, they're completely configurable. You don't have to have them just green. You can even put a puppy on there as well if you'd like somebody to smile along whilst they're telling you what their skincare routine is as well. But what we would recommend is asking your customers what they would like. So similarly to what Mike has said, make sure you're asking, like, why has your customer come to the site? What skincare benefits or I guess dilemmas do they have with you with your brand? Why are they with you? And then what you could do is use that information that those customers are telling you. So say I've got dry skin, I'd like to have lovely plump glowing skin and maybe get rid of my crow feet. You could then use that information and personalize my particular communication strategy to me going forward with your brand. So every email I get from you, make sure that top banner is of a smiling model, maybe saying, get plumper skin now, because you know that's what I'm interested in and you know that's going to capture my attention and make me come back for more. So although I guess some use cases or some I guess features might be seen as kind of one and done. Yep, we've got our acquisition web layer done. We're getting the email addresses, beautiful. But what's next? What more can we get from our customers to really personalize and make sure that we're giving timely and relevant information to those customers as best we can throughout the whole year, but also especially moving into kind of very, very peak, busy, noisy times of the year around the end of Q4 as well. Another use case, which is really, really vital for the beauty industry, and I hope most people on this call have got a version of a replenishment campaign live, is a repurchase or replenishment nudge campaign. Whether this be a finger in the air, we think that you should rebuy mascara every 3 months, so let's send this email out to mascara purchases every 3 months. Or leaning into what Mike said, make it really data driven. Can you work out a running average of how long your customers take to finish a mascara, and then on that point send them a replenishment email to prompt them to buy again. Give them a reason to come back to your B2B site or B2C site, or a reason to come back to your mascara rather than trying something new. We've seen great uplifts from replenishment campaigns from our customers. So really, it's a really key campaign or use case that we push, although it seems as quite simplistic and something that most people have. We recommend you having it live all year round to make sure you're capturing customers' attention just ahead of them running out. And actually something that Mike mentioned earlier, taking your customers through the journey of using your product. So say they purchase a mascara and then you're taking them through a lovely post-purchase campaign, reminding them how often maybe they use the product, how to use the product, will then help you estimate again where they will be kind of running short or need to replenish their product with you. And then a example that Mike showed a few times on his slides was around social proofing. And I think we've all seen kind of bestseller badges or X number of items have been sold here in the last two hours, whatever that might be, on websites. But what we're really seeing is an influx of trying to personalize and make timely email communications more and more. Again, it gets into capturing attention. We're pushing urgency. What can we do to really get our customers to do what we want them to do once they receive that email in their inbox? Adding in a small little block which mirrors what that customer is seeing on site. So 100 people have seen this. This is an example from a jewelry client, but 100 people have purchased this watch in the last 24 hours, or X number of people have added this to their cart. Really adds that kind of following the norms. Other people are doing this, other people like this item, so we want to do it too, or I will do it too, and I'll add that watch and that mascara to my basket and go on to purchase too. So these are all use cases that you can have and bring into your strategies to make sure that you're ticking off each of those areas within Mindspace to really capture customers in every single part of their journey with you. And in a similar way to Mike, don't just believe me. We have some great customer success stories here. We are linking just a few of our beauty, cosmetic and health customers and their success that they've seen with Bloomreach along the way. Here ranging from using web layers or recommendations within their emails and also on their websites. There's lots of different fun information in here that you can have a look into, and some great uplifts as well. So please feel free to have a look through and capture some information, some inspiration, sorry. Gosh, I think I need my lunch. And then I guess top takeaways from us is please don't set and forget. We see so many times, and it's meant to be a gift. The rocket was meant to be taking off, but hey, there we go. We'll take off in our imagination. We see so many times that use cases or campaigns are set. So you'd have your welcome campaign, you've set it live, brilliant, big tick. We've got that that dopamine. Yes, brilliant, I've done this correctly. And then it's forgotten for the rest of the year. This is something that is super, super key to make sure that you're continuing to test, you're continuing to try, not only seasonally, but different pools of customers, different segments of customers might react differently to different types of information. So we'd always recommend having sort of a walk, crawl, run strategy. What's your next step? Where are you going to go to now with your use cases, your CRM strategy, or even just your marketing thoughts going forward? So please don't forget, testing is super, super important. If you can bring in anything predictive or modeling into that, that would be amazing as well. But really, please don't be frightened to test and learn. That's our biggest takeaway here anyway. Fab. So that's all we have today content-wise. We wanted to make sure that we left enough time for any questions or queries. I don't see any in the chat. Please feel free to add them if you haven't done already. But we really hope that you found today's content interesting and thought-provoking. And we're definitely going to be going through all of Mike's slides again and make sure that I've got all of those strategy points ahead of my next success planning session with my customers. But yes, please, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at Bloomreach or to Impression as well. You should receive an email after this webinar with the links to the deck and also communication to links to all of us as well. So yeah, thank you so much and have a lovely rest of your Tuesday. Hopefully the sun stays out. But yeah, we can stay on the line in case there's any questions. But yeah, thank you very much. Brilliant, just checking, no questions or queries. We can wait a few seconds more just to see if there's any more that come through. But again, thank you all and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.